Hi guys, I'm Woodcraft Hamster and I thought I'd do one final video in my Camp Coffee series. Now I picked up a very cheap stovetop coffee maker or perculator, call it what you like, and in reality I'm very unlikely to take this away with me when I go camping and bushcrafting, just because of the size, the weight and everything else, but I've always wanted to try one and I found this really cheaply online, so I thought I'd just give it a go, and if nothing else it may just live out here in my workshop, and if it turns out well, that'll probably be what I use to make my coffee out here. So let me bring you just a little bit closer in and I'll show you how this is supposed to work. Right then guys, so this should be pretty simple. Here is our stovetop percolator and it comes in three parts. You've got the top here, which I'll show you in a second. You've got the base, which is what we fill with water. And then you've got a little chamber here for your coffee ground sitting. You've got kind of like a strainer in there almost. Now, first and foremost, this gets filled with water. The strainer then goes back in. And I'll just dump some coffee on there. Again, as I've said before, I'm not a strong coffee person, but we'll see how this turns out. And you don't want to pack it down from what I've been told. You just put a nice layer in there. You know, you can tamp it down a little bit, but you don't want it kind of wedged in too tightly. And then we've got the top piece here, and hopefully you can see this little spout. You've got a couple of holes either side, and what will happen as the water boils, it will force water up past the grounds, then back down inside, so to speak, and then the strainer on this side here will push the water through, catches all the grounds, and then your coffee comes up there and fills up this little chamber. That's the theory anyway. Now apparently this makes a particularly strong cup of coffee. I'm not a huge fan of strong coffee, but we'll see how it turns out. And if I just get this stove going very quickly, we'll get it on the boil. There we go. So I will let that do its job and we'll come back shortly and I'll show you what's going on. So there you go guys, that's what I wanted to show you. That's the coffee starting to come out, and I'm just going to turn this down a little bit. In fact, I turned it the wrong way and we can all see what happens then. But essentially, that is how the percolator works. Right then guys, well as I say, that was slightly more explosive than I was expecting it to be, and that's probably user error on my part. I've got a really lovely clear coffee here, absolutely no grounds in there, which is really good. And I'm just going to give that a minute to cool down. But essentially I now have coffee pretty much all over my workshop. There's a bit down on the floor here, there's a bit down the floor here, and a bit on my workbench. And that's because I think, and please do, you know, correct me in the comments if this isn't right, I think I had my stove a little bit too high of a temperature. I know most people will kind of watch those pots quite steadily, and as soon as it starts coming through you normally take it off the heat. I assumed that having it sort of relatively low would have been okay, but apparently not. So that's a lesson learned for me. But you know, it was a fairly simple and easy way of making coffee. And I think, you know, if I was car camping, something like that, I'd probably take this with me for convenience. That way I wouldn't have to use the pot I would normally use for boiling and cooking in, and then have to clean it out in between, etc. Smells good. It's not a bad cup of coffee. I could live with that if I was out camping. So there you go guys. As I say, first time I've ever used one of these stovetop coffee makers. I think they're a little bit of an art form. It's something I'm going to have to play around with to make sure I get it right. But all in all, yeah, I was quite pleased with it. So I hope it was useful. Comments and questions in the box below. Hit like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I hope you'll all join me next time. Cheers guys.